So to start off this week, the first question was, what are your thoughts on the way the idea of centrism is positioned and how we consume polarizing events? So I'm going to be reading off my note sheet. Hold on a minute. So when I came across the concept of centrism, which is a small summarization, meaning basically trying to find some sort of middle ground between different opinions, creating a neutral ground. When I think of centrism, I come to the idea of compromising and seeing both sides of an argument, kind of, and seeing both perspectives and viewing how each person sees it. When talking about certain events, I don't truly, I can kind of see how people, when they're viewing a certain event, only see their side of things and not maybe the other side of the argument. I don't believe that people really consume both sides of the argument so they can process and break things down from both perspectives to come up with the best idea. So we become blindsided by our own morals and block off all other viewpoints that could potentially have justifiable points. When talking about polarizing events, I believe us as people get distracted and over involved with the argument. So basically what I was trying to say by saying this is when we're talking about an argument, we get too into the argument and we're just distracting ourselves from the real problem, and we're just creating more issues by not actually solving the problem. I think we should instead come together and make a agreeable idea that we can just make a stop to a certain issue instead of just having all these pointless arguments on trying to see who has the best idea, but come together and just find something that it can happen and we can do it right away. The second question is, in what ways does King's perspective modify/complicate the common binary idea of how we want to understand both sides of an issue? And when I wrote about this is, after I read King's perspective and hearing his point of view and insight, I really enjoyed how King emphasized on taking action, demanding equality, and dispute inequality. King's point in simpler terms is to understand and remember to see the bigger picture. King says that rather than understanding both sides of the argument, we need to take action and do something and then now create an outcome rather than continue to distract ourselves with the battle. And this kind of matches what was going on in the first question that was asked. King's perspective is that we need to stop making all these excuses and take action right now and make a change right now. Instead of not doing anything and nothing progressing, we need to start now and do it now. And that's something he really emphasized on. And I think that's why he made such a good impact and a huge movement on everyone in the world. And he himself even said people have different morals and everyone's gonna have different perspectives, but we together as people need to make a change and make something different. He just wanted people to come together and just make some type of successful outcome instead of just having all the issues, instead of just backtracking and not ever doing something. He just wanted people to step up, make themselves known to change the issue. The next question was, think back to our reading on Aristotle and the golden mean. If we describe this middle ground on the golden rule as the location of one's virtue, one could suggest that the moderate is therefore virtuous. What label could you place on this understanding of our sensibilities and how that label contributes to a bigger idea? So what I wrote about this was, while thinking back on Aristotle and how it's labeled as virtue ethics, in a short summary, this talks about being virtuous and striving for balance without causing chaos. Aristotle's theory is to aim for a harmonious society with calmness and balance, although this somewhat adds to a concept of centrism because its main idea is to capitalize the harmony and seeing both sides while making a decision. So I think this really relates to, because striving virtue and talking about virtuous and being basically talks about balance and not wanting to cause chaos and seeing both sides instead of just weighing on one side and creating an unequal balance. And I really think that seeing both sides of a decision also relates to the other questions that we were asked about. Although it contradicts King's viewpoint that we need to take action now rather than being hung up on the argument, it makes personal morals. So talking about Aristotle, he says you really want to view out all the viewpoints and make a balanced decision, but I think this kind of contradicts what King was saying, because he was more of just do this now instead of doing nothing, make a statement now, make some sort of effort, so we're just not doing nothing. And I think Aristotle's was more just balancing and looking at things equally and trying to make less of an impact and doing it as calm as possible with the most amount of harmony. And I think King's was the opposite, saying we need to do this now. I don't care what we do, but we need to make a change now. And when we're talking about our middle ground, that is referring to each individual's morals and what they believe in is right or wrong. This relates to a bigger picture because, like King says, I believe we get caught in our own personal morals and become distracted by our own issue instead of looking for the bigger picture and giving everyone equal stand for their morals. Was 4. How does Limbaugh and his message as culture figure coordinate with the way we consume or misconstrue MLK's image in the narrative of civil rights? So for this question, I wrote down, pull out my next note sheet. Rush Limbaugh and Martin Luther King are very different. MLK fought for equal rights, while Limbaugh is a conservative who said controversial things. People have different opinions and political beliefs, which affect how they see MLK compared to Limbaugh. Some may focus on MLK's call for individual freedom, while others think Limbaugh doesn't care about racism in the civil rights movement. Overall, they're both talking about separate viewpoints. It's crucial to remember how different morals are related to each perspective. So basically what this is saying is that these two people are on completely different spectrums. Like, Martin Luther King strives for equality, and Limbaugh was on the complete opposite. He would say conservative comments, and he just didn't really see a point for trying to end racism or dealing with any of that sort. So I believe what this was trying to talk about is that people will always be on opposite sides of a spectrum when talking about morals, and that we always need to remember that not everyone is going to be the exact same. And that's what I kind of got from reading that. The number 5 question was, put Limbaugh in a conversation with moral absolutism we approach in week 4. Keep this in the realm of the cultural draw, not the personal draw to the idea. Properly illustrate boundaries that demonstrate our conception of such disclosures in the relationship between progress and backlash. Back to my note page. I wrote, the conception of surrounding figures like Rush Limbaugh and Martin Luther King Jr. reveals boundaries in the relationship between progress and backlash. These boundaries include selective perception, misconception, and simplification, and the importance of considering multiple perspectives and understanding the boundaries that require different thinking and open-mindedness, a willingness to engage with different viewpoints. Sorry, I keep mistalking. Surrounding progress. So basically it's saying that by transcending these boundaries, we can develop a more comprehensive understanding by the surrounding progress and backlash in the pursuit of social change. So this is just talking about all the backlash and the social exchange that happens surrounding figures like Rush Limbaugh and Martin Luther King Jr. And then the second question, sorry if it's loud, I have a bunch of people in my living room right now. The second question, number 6. If I can pull up the document, there we go, 6. Conclude this with a question. What question do you have regarding figures like Limbaugh, culture influence, and the way one's sensibilities and idea of reasonable intersect to the way we see the world ethically? Be detailed and specific with this question. Avoid big and general questions. Okay. So in conclusion, the boundaries that arise in the conception of discourses around figures like Limbaugh and Martin Luther King provide insight into the complex relationship between progress and backlash. So basically understanding these boundaries and transcending them is huge, and it's big for developing an understanding of social issues that still go on in today's world. How can we navigate these boundaries and foster a more inclusive, informed discourse while addressing legitimate concerns and backlash? And for this, I put no. 2 minutes. Need to speed this up a little bit. Alright, and then the the next set of questions, 9. This text is invested in the central idea of humanism. Without reciting the definition of humanism, provide us with your thoughts on what you believe is easy to understand about humanism and what about humanism is complicated. So, humanism is both easy to understand, and it always will be complicated trying to understand this topic. It values human dignity, rights, and just balance in some type of ways. However, applying humanism to different areas like politics and ethics, it can make it extremely difficult and a little confusing. There are diverse ways and challenging questions to address while talking about this. It goes into religion, morals, social responsibility, and just humanism, engaging with complex issues like cultures and all that type of things. Understanding these complexities require critical thinking, exploring multiple perspectives. So basically, humanism is just such a dynamic window, and it has a whole viewpoint all over the world, and people view it all differently, and it can be simple and it can be really difficult to understand. And then the next question is, describe what you believe is the draw to such a brand of thinking that satire is presenting. Point to some specific in his text that resonates with your idea. So we're going to try and go through these a little fast. Skepticism, often misunderstood, and not conflict with humanism. Instead, it can enhance critical thinking and align values with evidence-based reasoning. Also reinforcing humanistic dignity, rights, and justice. For number 10, I wrote, describe what you believe in the draw to such a brand thinking that Sartre is presenting. Point to something specific in his text that resonates with their idea. Skepticism, often misunderstood, is not in conflict with humanism. Instead, it can enhance critical thinking and align values with evidence-based reasoning, reinforcing humanistic principles of dignity, rights, and justice. Keeps tweaking. Okay. Then for number 10, I wrote, describe what you believe. Oh, I already did number 10. 11. Remember what nothing equals anything else. When it comes to theory and application, with that in mind, identify the critical difference between the audiences and orbits of existent thinkers and absolute thinkers like a Jordan Peterson. Thinkers like Sartre focus on personal freedom and responsibility, while absolute thinkers like Jordan value objective truth and traditional values. And then for 12, the difference in understanding the mainstream ideas show that people have diverse views and ways of thinking. Each person interprets these ideas based on their own beliefs and what they've been through and their own personal experiences. And for 13, I put, philosophy emphasizes individual freedom and responsibility, but our choices are influenced by social factors. External circumstances can limit our choices. Personal meaning is subjective yet influenced by culture. Sartre tells us to define our values, acknowledging societal influences, using the yes and either or method to embrace complexity. Sorry if this video went a little over. I'm just reading all my notes on here.